On our first story, Ghana has suffered a damning verdict in the latest Corruption Perception Index (CPI) report conducted by Transparency International. The country was ranked 80 out of the 180 countries used for the survey. It dropped by 2 places from the country's 2018 rank of 78. A statement from the Ghana Integrity Initiative (GII), the local chapter of Transparency International, revealed in sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana tied with West African counterparts Benin at 10th position. On the score sheet, Ghana maintained its CPI score of 41 from 2018. Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Linda Ofori-Kwafo, has been given details, noting that more work must be done in the fight this year.
They have moved a bit forward, also because in an election year like this, there's a possibility that when matters of corruption are discussed, getting to the election period, people will perceive, or business will perceive, high levels of corruption in the country. And so if there was any way I was expecting us to have done worse off, then it's likely to be 2020 results. That would be the aftermath of the 2020 CPI. This is 2019 CPI. So then after the elections, the next one is likely to have a reflection of how corruption affected us in the elections. Transparency International itself is saying that Ghana is the country to watch. This is because we have not been saying since 2012, when the CPI became comparable, we have really been dancing around the 40s, and the highest score in 2014 was 48, and since then started dropping until 2017 or 2018, when we were able to just gain an insignificant 1 point. So then what it means is that we need to do more as a country, and until that happens, we are not going to see any major transformation from the CPI performance. We also have to bear in mind that CPI is a composite index. So then if Ghana is not performing well on the indexes that we're using calculating our index, we are not likely to see any major change. And the indexes are quite many, about 13 in all. And so we should be trying to perform well on a number of the indexes before we can see the reflection in the CPI score that we are getting.
Can you also clarify, did government do anything new towards the fighting corruption in the year under review?
Okay, so in 2020, a number of laws were passed, and my former boss of blessed memory will always say that laws themselves do not fight corruption. I think the key ones are the Right Information Law, and that is even yet to...
So this is 2019?
2019.
Okay.
Yes, 2019. So we had the RTI law passed. I think the Witness Protection Bill was also passed. The Companies Law, which is going to help in when it comes to addressing issues of beneficial ownership, was also passed. So they are all new things that came into existence. But then the laws just would not translate until it has been implemented and the benefits thereof have been seen by the business people who come to do business in our country. And that is done, we will not see any major changes in the CPI score. So that these were the new initiatives. So the government continues saying that, oh, we have given more money to anti-corruption institutions to do their work. We want to see the work done. That is when the people who are observing us will say that, oh, because of ABCD, we can now give Ghana a higher score in the indices that are used in calculating the CPI. So we have to be seen to be doing more, to be told. And I am already afraid for 2020 CPI results because of what happens during election time, the vote buying, abuse of incumbency, and all those things. If we don't take care, we are going to dip. I'm not a prophet of doom, but there's a possibility that if much is not done for us to gain some kind of confidence and trust in the eyes of business people, then we are likely going to see a dip. If you compare the CPI to Afrobarometer, that actually deals with perceptions of citizens. So the people in the country are saying that we have not done well under Afrobarometer. Business people are saying that if you are using the same indices that we used to calculate your last poll, then I'll still give Ghana the score we gave Ghana the last year.
Away from that story, and 50% of work has been done on the Lekma Road. This is according to the resident engineer Philip Ansah. Mr. Ansah, speaking on the AM show, said the entire road can be completed by the end of 2020. Meanwhile, my colleague Roland Walker has been speaking to users on the convenience or inconvenience of the ongoing work.
It is exactly 6 months since a promise was given by the roads minister that this road, this stretch, at least one lane will be completed for motorists to be able to use the stretch. You all do remember the campaign that went alongside the hashtag Fix Lekma Now. Over the period, the last 6 months, we've been able to come here to come and assess the road. Now let me just give you an insight. And look, if you take the stretch, you get to find that there's a bulldozer or a payloader or just one of those construction equipment in there, concrete mixers also. You can't see far off. Not too sure whether it's clear enough for you, but there had been some work so far done. And so you get to find that on your right, the lane has been completed. But this lane is just a component of a stretch that is estimated to be some 7.5 kilometers. Well, with a 6-month ultimatum given with a good promise, do we have at least one lane of the 7.5 kilometer Lekma Road fixed as promised by the roads minister after 6 months? One lane at least has been done. No complaints.
Oh, yeah, no complaints. We can't complain. This is better than before. And we give all the credit to the multimedia group. You know, before, we the residents, together with the drivers' unions over here, right from La Scala, the one at the Lekma Hospital, the Agbolizan taxi rank, we try to throw light on the devastating nature of the road and then the consequences it was having on residents and even drivers and even the hospital. But we didn't get a lot of exposure. Then, to our amazement, multimedia came in. Right after he came in, we found the Minister of Roads coming down to Lejakuku here. And then he came to talk about the fact that they were going to finish in 6 months' time. And then they were going to award the contract and finish in 6 months' time. And now tomorrow marks 6 months. And the 6 months, even though it's a dual carriage, one lane of the road has been done. And even though it's not complete, because when you get to almost to Mane Junction, that place is still not tarred. And then almost to the La Scala Junction on this road, going to the police station, that place is also not tarred. But I think they are still on the road, and tomorrow is 6. I don't think they can finish tomorrow. But as compared to before, it's far better. Initially, when you come here, the woman selling there, it will all be dusty. You know, all the shops, everything will be dusty. But today, it's better. We give our credits to multimedia. There's nothing political. If the road is done, it's going to inure to the benefit of residents in Teshi. It's going to inure to the benefit of the people at the hospital, the shopkeepers, everybody.
We can now listen to the resident engineer Philip Ansah, who is convinced work would be completed by the end of the year.
Working towards the end of the year, and that all things being equal, you know,
end of 2020.
Yes, the issue has to do with also payment. You know, so if I'm sure if the employer also pay at the right time, then we should, let me say, that by the end of the year we should be able to finish the project. Your next issue about stock prices.
Forgive me, Mr. Ansah, if you don't mind, if we can, you know, sort of get some clarification on what you've told us about the deadline you are working towards. So you're saying that even if the monies are paid on time, you are still looking at end of 2020 for completion.
I think that is a good estimate, because you, from your end, you know, we've done something in the past 6 months, okay?
Yeah.
Which was a bit accelerated, okay? So we are looking at all things because around August to be able to finish. That is all things being equal, yes. Because after doing the other side, now we have to include the traffic installation, lane marking, traffic light installation. So if you ask me, August should be
okay.
a good estimate. But we are, the contractor is doing his best if there's a payment. So if there's any condition, I will look at the payment.
JoyNews, Joy FM and the Multimedia Group are embarking on a road safety campaign, Arrive Alive. This morning on the Super Morning Show on Joy FM, the Auditor General, Daniel Yao-Domelevo, pledged his support for the campaign. He suggested in the interim, standard speed bumps should be constructed at accident-prone areas and highways as government works on the long-term solution of dualizing these highways.
Well, the news about the carnage or accidents on our road is very disturbing, and I think it should be of concern to any Ghanaian. A lot of them, I'm told, is a human factor. People are driving recklessly, over speeding. They don't maintain their vehicles. And, of course, enforcement of the rules are not very deterring. So I think these are all contributing factors to where we are today. They should move the police to the road, onto our roads. I think that would be an abuse of our police, because even if we do, they cannot be there 24/7. They cannot be there every time. So and nobody knows when the accident is going to happen. I've heard the road minister promising that they are going to dualize some of our roads, which is very encouraging news. But that is not going to happen today or next year. So my simple suggestion is that why don't we construct speed ramps at all the accident-prone areas? Wherever there is a blind spot where we think accidents can occur or do occur, why don't we, within the next 2 weeks, construct speed ramps? Standard ones, of course. And I think that will keep the people alive until the dualization arrives. Our observation, which will soon come out, I think in less than a month or next month, our report will go to Parliament. You will see that the major observation is that the quality of the roads are not good. The roads are not constructed to meet the standards specified in the Bill of Quantities. So you can see it clearly on our roads, where we have a lot of potholes and the roads are dented, or a whole lot of defects on the roads. So that is part of the problem. We have submitted the reports. We now take additional steps to see if we can estimate or arrive at a reasonable amount that we think the country has lost or been denied the value for. And if we are able to justify it, that one is a bit difficult, because it is assuming you are audited a road which stretches maybe 100 kilometers, and you take samples and you go to the library and you test it, and those samples don't meet the standard. You get the contractor arguing that, well, holding them accountable may work. So we also see how the court system works. But we will try it. We'll make it put in a trial to say, look, at least in some of the cases, the road is supposed to, let's assume, to be 10 inches thick. And if we didn't get 10 inches and we got 7, why don't we proportionately take 3/10 away from you? So those ones we are going to argue.
Right. It looks like very interesting times are coming in, and the end result for all of this is to save the state's money and, of course, to ensure that we all arrive alive, isn't it?
Exactly. Not only save the state money, which is very important, but then the quality. In fact, I think I've said this over and over. I think that one disease which kills Ghanaians most is corruption. The number of accidents on our road, people dying in the hospital, people being denied their education, etc. The biggest problem is corruption. So if we start tackling it from all angles, I think we will get there.
Away from the road, hundreds of people have hit the streets of Accra in a peaceful march dubbed the March for Equality to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. The march, organized by the coalition of CSOs on the Sustainable Development Goals, brought together scores of street children, famished Ghanaians and physically challenged persons to present a petition to the ministry on the subject of growing inequality in the country. Here are excerpts of the petition read by Beauty Nate. She's co-convener of the CSO.
And implement employment equity policy for persons with disabilities. Fight discrimination against women, including criminalizing it, publicize incidents of rape and sexual harassment in the workplace, and enforce laws against such practices. We urge you to put in place systems to ensure that the informal sector progressively complies with at least the minimum requirements on pay for both women and men on the work environment. It is also important to better manage the vulnerability of large sections of the working population by incorporating workers in the informal sector into social insurance schemes and mechanisms. This may include the gradual integration of existing micro-insurance arrangements into national social insurance schemes. Government must put skills development in the informal sector back on the agenda and create incentive for public providers of training to serve the informal sector. Skills help workers to access non-agricultural jobs and help increase their earnings. Apprenticeships are the most important form of skills development in the informal sector, and government must invest the resources needed to improve the efficiency of apprenticeship schemes. This must be accompanied by result-based policy making, testing, monitoring, and evaluation. All stakeholders have a role to play. Employers, public and private training providers, and donors, though government must take the lead. We also want you to invest in national care systems to address the disproportionate responsibility for care work done by women and girls. Government must invest in cross-governmental national care systems, in addition to investing in and transforming existing public services and infrastructure. National care system must include the provision of universal access to safe water, sanitation, and domestic energy systems.
Now, Acting Director General at Administration had the Ministry, Thelma Ohene-Siama, who received a petition on behalf of the Sector Minister Cynthia Morrison, assured the group that the document will be given the necessary consideration. Away from that story, the Electoral Commission EC will begin compiling a new voters register on Sunday, April 18 this year. The Commission intends to complete the exercise by May 30, 2020. The Commission also expects to exhibit the new register from August 15 to August 28, 2020. Confirming these, the Deputy Chairperson of the EC in charge of operations, Mr. Samuel Tete, said the EC will deploy 8,000 registration devices to cover the 32,000 polling stations across the country. He explained that the EC would use a cluster system for the registration, where 4 polling stations will form a cluster. He said although the EC intended to spend 10 days at each cluster, mindful of the fact that the voting population in some polling stations was high, it might exceed the days at some polling stations to ensure that all eligible voters were registered. Mr. Tete, according to graphics, said after the 43-day registration period, the EC would provide a 5-day mopping up period to take care of any exigencies. The EC, meanwhile, says it remains committed to engaging all stakeholders in the lead-up to the December 2020 elections. Still on the EC, it says it is ready to implement the Representation of the People's Amendment Act ROPA. The act, which seeks to provide an opportunity for Ghanaians living abroad to participate in general elections, it was passed by Parliament 12 years ago, but the EC has been unable to see to its implementation. Now, at a forum on Election 2020 organized by the Ibibiman Foundation in Accra, Acting Director in charge of training as the EC, Michael Buedu, said the implementation of the act is set to begin with a draft document already prepared awaiting registration.
Is the EC ready? Yes, we are ready. The ROPA is a Ghana thing. That's to say, if we are to allow Ghanaians outside the borders of Ghana to register, we have to use Ghana's law on elections. And so whatever pertains here will not be too different from what we're going to see if we roll out ROPA. There are certain details that we cannot, will not be able to let go now. But what I would say is that we've gone far with our arrangements for ROPA, and we will come out very soon with our modalities, because we intend doing registration early this year, and if we're going to roll out ROPA, it means that our relations out there who qualify to vote must also be registered. And so it must cover them right from the registration through to election. And so if you ask whether we are ready, say yes, we are, because by way of planning and putting things on paper, yeah, we are far advanced. But we'll let the nation, the group of this country know very soon, because we have to factor it when it comes to registration, which is also earmarked to take off pretty soon.
Now we stay with the Electoral Commission because canoe owners and fishermen in Ghana are calling on the National Peace Council to stop them from going ahead with plans to collate a new voters register. The canoe owners and fishermen say they would be disenfranchised should the EC go ahead with such a plan. They explain many fishermen will be in some neighboring countries looking for fish during the period the EC has set to undertake the exercise and might be back when the exercise would be over. At a news conference at Elmina in the Central Region, the fishermen called on the EC to halt the exercise or postpone it to next year so the fishermen will not be affected in the impending exercise.
Yami adma march ibinu makwa Nigeria obinu makwa Abidjan ibinu makwa Liberia waka pujuma because we adma no on maybe na makwa na wako na sabi wanja akutu enti da meta me na wonu so enemesi. In
the month of March, God willing, many fishermen would leave the country for Nigeria, Abidjan, Liberia, and other countries to look for more fish. How do you want us to register when we are out of the country? We are suggesting to them to rescind their decision to compile a new voter register. I bet you many of us will be left out because we will not be in the country and we will constitute a sizable size of this country's economy. We are appealing to the Christian Council of Ghana to do something about it.
Next year, na so botu waya na we tu waya na the men chechire waya mpempe afrofo de no be 90% we need more kombo on you to peace council nim the wuntu wana mo na wanya aban wanyine nkasa me yakata na ide register ma man fan sanka na lo botu punuma na police officer nu komi.
All that we are telling them is he shouldn't touch the register. If he was able to lock the sea, he shouldn't attempt to touch the register. If he likes, he should dare touch the register and let's see. We have nobody but Jesus to rely on.
Many of
our people are in other countries now. A lot more of us will go. We are pleading with the National Peace Council to intervene. What they are going to do will disenfranchise us and will prevent us from voting. We, the fishermen, do not agree with them at all.
Away from the Electoral Commission, the war against the activities of illegal mining or galamsey has not been won completely just yet. However, the situation in the Esutifi North District of the Ahafo region has gone down drastically. That's according to the District Chief Executive Anthony Mensah and Esutifi Police Commander DSP Teddy Brown in separate interviews with JoyNews. The Assembly is, however, seeking the assistance of the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry to help them broker a deal with the mining giant Newmont Gold Ghana Limited.
Some 62 galamseyers were arrested and prosecuted late last year when they encroached portions of Newmont's land in an attempt to force the mining company to agree to their demands of ceding portions of their land for small-scale mining. According to the DCE, Anthony Mensah, an agreement with the mining giant will completely curb the galamsey menace, while the company also works in peace.
And then the Newmont to see if there will be the need for them to have the opportunity to work on some other areas where they think it will be good for them to do their small-scale mining. My plea is to talk to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to come and then help us get solutions to these problems in order not to go through, because we are being pressured. It's like always we are solving problems between the company and the illegal miners. And like I said from the beginning, if you're able to get some place for them, to help solve the problem that the people or the galamseyers go close to where Newmont is working.
He also said, while about 500 galamseyers who have been registered wait to be part of the community mining, proactive security measures are in place.
Previously, while people, it was difficult to even convince them to stop the activities. But it took the intervention of some of us because we are local people where we understand our people and they also understand us. And so we spoke to them very well and they understood us. When they stopped, the expectation was that the community mining was going to come on. And we have registered about 500 people, galamseyers, and then they are waiting to have their community mining. And so if we are to get the community mining, then we see that we are making a headway. And then the galamsey situation, as you ask, stopping it is winnable.
Meanwhile, a Sitifi Police Command confirmed the arrest and prosecution of the 62 people, adding the new Ahaf Regional Command has devoted a lot of attention to rid the galamseyers out of the area. DSP Teddy Brown is the Sitifi Police Commander.
2 years ago, the galamsey activity was very intensive over here. But for the past, I can say for the past 1 month or 1.5 months, it has reduced drastically because we have introduced patrol from the region. Now the region, they used to come here to assist us in doing a patrol over here. So we've had a good number of people from Goso because now we have our own region and we have our own regional commander. So the regional commander has been helping us in doing the patrols. And 3 weeks ago, he came down here and we made an arrest of 62 illegal miners, and they were all sent to court. That has also made them not to enter into the galamsey area.
Now, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has disclosed government is coming up with a plan to deal with the porous borders in the country. He said the intention is to fortify the country's borders with 2 tiers of defense, with the Immigration Service serving as the first. He has therefore directed the Controller of Ghana Immigration Service, Kwame Isiatechi, to, as a matter of urgency, open up an office at the border entry point in the Wa West district of the Upper West region. Ambrose Derry, he made the statement in a meeting with personnel of the Ghana Immigration Service as part of his 3-day tour of the Upper West region. JoyNews' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The Interior Minister met with personnel of the Ghana Immigration Service.
We are coming out with a package that is going to combine front operating bases, which will have immigration the first part, the military in the second part, so that we have fortified borders. But what we have is porous borders, isn't it? And we are running around chasing shadows. I've heard the story about Wa West. You don't have an office, let alone an entry point. Now, there's only one way to do it. I'm directing your controller. Yes, establish an office there, but we must get one entry point there. Otherwise, you're forcing everybody to be an illegal, because they will come, and we will go.
He was accompanied there by the Controller of the Ghana Immigration Service, Kwame Isiatechi.
Then one thing that I want to assure you of, we need to help ourselves. And this goes to the regional commanders, and I've sent a message to them. And since your boss is not here, there are among us some auxiliary who have got 4, 5 credits. They cannot be auxiliary and be cleaning here as laborers. If you know they are good, bring it to our attention.
2 major issues that came up when Interior Minister Ambrose Derry visited the Wa prison was the issue of the 1 Ghana cedis, 80 pesos feeding grants for inmates of prisons in the country, and the lack of vehicles to aid officers in running effective service at the 99-year-old Wa prison. Christopher Nyemedi is the Upper West commander of the Ghana Prison Service.
No office has an air condition or washroom, not even that of the regional commander's office. Also, the feeding rate of 1 CD 80 pesos, 1 Ghana CD 80 pesos per inmate per day makes it difficult to meet their nutritional requirements. Honorable Minister, it is sad to note that the only prison establishment in the region, the Washington prison, has no official command vehicle and a vehicle for administrative duties, such as sending prisoners to court and hospital, as well as on transfers, which become necessary to reduce congestion and for security reasons.
Interior Minister Ambrose Derry noted that despite the meager amount involved, its payment has not been regular over the years.
The feeding rate is low, but I met a feeding rate that wasn't paid at all. Arrears of payment, yes, suppliers won't give us. So we are paying up, we are catching up. Immediately we come over, but what we have to do is, when we're paying the back, we have to be paying what we're taking now.
Another issue, who the Interior Minister said he has asked the President's Council to work on, is the rationalization of ranks of personnel of the service to be in tandem with that of the Ghana Police Service.
What is the equivalent of your rank in the police, for instance? And if we did that, I suspect we will come across at least 2 or 3 redundant ranks that will not have links. And if we find that, we should abolish them. Because you'll be promoted and you don't feel a benefit.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Now, before we go for business, the Inspector General of Police has been directed by an Accra High Court to file documents detailing the list of policemen who were on duty during on the day a JoyNews journalist was allegedly assaulted. Latif Idris in March last year dragged the Attorney General and the IGP to court for alleged assault, by policemen on March 27, 2018, while covering news of the arrest of former Deputy General Secretary of the NDC at the police headquarters. Rosalind Kaleji held brief for Samson Yenini for the plaintiff, and the IGP was represented by lawyer Ernest Kofi. The court has asked parties to file witness statements and return to court on the 1st of April. Up next in business, Trade Minister urges African countries to sign all agreements to reap full benefits of a continental free trade area.
So signing the agreement and bringing it into legal existence is good. But to take advantage of it, you actually need now to focus on these 7 clusters.
Darryl Carl has more after this.